Hello guys, so yesterday Anthropic released Sonnet 4.6 model, which is now available in Claude code. This is the tweet by Claude and Boris. And I decided to try it out and compare versus Opus 4.6. Boris is claiming that it nears Opus level intelligence, but what does that exactly mean? I tried on 7 Laravel projects and tasks. Because now I have a methodology, I've created my own internal for now evals for Laravel projects, and yesterday I published a video testing 6 LLMs on that for premium members of AI Coding Daily, and I will link that in the description below. So in this video I will show you the result of the same methodology on Opus versus Sonnet. So we will be talking about this table, for now blurred out, and I will show you the results in a few minutes and explain them. So for the same 7 tasks on Laravel, different kinds of projects, I will compare the time of both models, the token usage, which basically means cost, then how many failed tests did they produce, if any, and then later we will dive into the code and compare the differences. First, really quickly about my methodology. So those 7 projects are actually 5 projects of default Laravel starter kits, Laravel 12, so React, Vue, and Livewire, and the prompts were to generate a few CRUDs, related files, so pretty big task with a few dozen of files to generate. Then I repeat the same for API project and for Filament Admin Panel project. So that's 5 tests, and the evaluation was automated test for all of them, external automated test, which AI agent doesn't know about, and then 2 more kind of extra tests, prompt to refactor database structure, and then another prompt to fix a bug which is kind of hidden, not in plain sight, so how the model thinks. And in terms of usage, I started the experiment with these numbers this morning, so it was 0% current session, and this was the number that I compared for Opus. So I launched all 7 tasks in Opus first and calculated the usage and the time, and then same tasks for Sonnet. So after Opus finished the tasks, the current session usage was 37%. And by the way, I'm on Claude Max 5X plan, $100 per month. So Opus used 37% of my session, then I switched to Sonnet, and after the Sonnet was done with all of its tasks, the usage was 49%. So compare the difference. And this is the actual full table of time and token usage and failed tests. So task by task, I was comparing the time, and the total time is 39 minutes versus 26. So that whole evaluation took me like almost 2 hours to complete, including the Google Sheet, this filling, and some Obsidian notes. So yeah, running AI evaluations is not a quick task and sometimes even expensive, but in this case I was on Anthropic plan. So yeah, token usage is staggering difference. And the most important part, that evaluation on failed tests. Sonnet delivered on all 7 projects without any failed test. And Opus ironically slipped once. I called it slipped because sometimes models hallucinate or some minor detail appears, and this can happen basically to any LLM. And this was that error by Opus, so seeders failed in Laravel because it came up with a method createOr first, which doesn't exist. Kind of a lame thing, but again, I noticed that can happen to all models, including frontier models like Opus or GPT-5.3. So that's why automated tests is a crucial thing for any project where you use LLMs. And this is, by the way, one of the examples of those eval tests. So testing basically whether the page loads, whether the data is there. So testing all the CRUDs from feature point of view without really looking at the code that much. But if the code fails somewhere, then automated test would probably flag that some CRUD behavior doesn't work. So in this case, for all those projects, both models delivered working code, except for Opus slipped once. But now let's take a look at the code quality inside. And looking deeper into the code, it starts making sense why Sonnet was faster, because it was cutting corners here and there. The code was working, but some of the code things were deeper in case of Opus. So I will show you the examples. On the left we'll have Opus, and on the right we'll have Sonnet. So for example, for validation rules, Opus uses class rule unique ignore route, and Sonnet uses string unique categories Slack, kind of old version, which still works, but object-oriented approach is probably more appropriate with autocomplete and everything. Another example where Opus got a bit deeper and delivered one extra function. So in the list of categories for the blog, for example, it gets the categories from the database with count of posts. Sonnet doesn't do that. Sonnet just goes category get order by name. And in the components of React in this case, Opus does use posts count and show them in the table, and Sonnet does not use posts count and in the table has only name, slug, and actions. Again, it's not a bug and I didn't specify that in the prompt how it should work, but Opus went a bit deeper. Another example is that Opus uses latest features in form, for example, for React. It uses Wayfinder and relatively new form syntax, which is now kind of officially recommended, or the first-party citizen, so to speak, with Laravel ecosystem, and Sonnet used old form with on top, it should be somewhere here, use form. So this one, use form from Inertia React. Again, still works, but Opus went deeper to deliver kind of best latest practice. But also, Opus was not always the winner of head-to-head. Sonnet's strength was in the UI things. So for example, in Livewire project, it's using Flux library, and the button in Opus just say variant primary and link. That's it. In case of Sonnet, it says Flux button and then icon plus. So here and there, Sonnet was adding more UI elements, icons, components. So basically taking care of UI better than Opus. In the same file, for example, the button for edit the category, so Flux button with size small, that's it, that Opus did. And then in case of Sonnet, if we scroll down, the button for the same thing is Flux button with size small, variant ghost, and icon pencil. And even the usage of component libraries is better on the Sonnet side because it uses Flux table with components from Flux library that comes with Livewire Starter Kit. In case of Opus, it just delivered table with Tailwind classes. So Flux is used here, but only for the buttons, not for the full table. And even positioning of the menu items, Sonnet did it better because, for example, in the Opus, the new menu items of categories and posts were added to the same group of, it's called platform. So it was dashboard here, and Opus added two items to the same thing. In case of Sonnet, it left the dashboard as it was and created a new group called blog with categories and posts in a separate group. Again, a better UI decision for the user experience. So yeah, if we come back to the original table and try to understand the reasons behind the differences, Opus gets much more token usage because it dives deeper into documentation, latest practices, comparing the code to guidelines and retesting it probably to perform well. And Sonnet delivers the result quicker, in many cases, as I understand, with the first result that it was trained on, without consulting the docs and the guidelines quite often, so it didn't use Inertia latest features, or Wayfinder syntax, or Laravel latest features that much, but the code of Sonnet still does work. The open question is, do we really care? And I kind of started changing my opinion that for such small details, it doesn't matter that much. Those Sonnet cutting corners were not really crucial. So in most cases, most project owners would be probably more happy with things being cheaper and faster if the code quality is like 80 or 90% to the latest standards. And even not every developer cares about the later standards that much. And this is where I want to show final tweets from the community that I see about Sonnet 4.6. So this is one tweet. One user notices that it's noticeably faster. Then another tweet by Jordan kind of summarizing what I just said a minute ago. Opus tasks are not really needed that much in many cases. And this is kind of a great tip by Jordan. I'm yet to try it out, but basically what he's saying, 95% of my work runs fine on Sonnet, and I do agree with that. And Jordan is trying to instruct Claude Code to flag if the model is not appropriate, so Opus may be a waste, but Sonnet may be underpowered. But this is a proof that Sonnet may be fine for many of the development cases. And this is another tweet by Akash for another use case. If you work on bigger projects with probably multiple agents and more complex tasks, then you shouldn't care about slowness or lower token usage. Interesting kind of poetical quote, Lion doesn't concern itself with token counting. They care about delivery, right? And what Akash is saying here is that people often miscalculate the cost if Sonnet works in circles of debugging the things and uses pretty much same amount of tokens. And I also heard the same thought from Boris from Claude Code, but in my experiments for really small, basically Laravel projects, I will try to do better and more complex evals in the future, so subscribe to the channel to get those. But for my experiments, Sonnet is much cheaper. So yeah, what do you think about my experiment with Sonnet versus Opus? I kind of agree with Boris that it's nears Opus level intelligence in terms of delivery of the code. So I guess it kind of swings the situation to, again, Sonnet being the daily work model and Opus used for more complex tasks. This is my probably recommendation for now as of February 18th, 2026. The recommendations may change daily. This is why you should subscribe to my channel AI Coding Daily to get all the latest news, and I will continue my evaluation experiments with new models that come out. As I mentioned, now I have evaluations here, and I will link that premium tutorial and 17-minute video in the description below, so you may want to take a look deeper at my methodology and how I compared other models, open source, open weight models like Kimi, Minimax, and GLM against the frontier Western models. Or the same video I made available for premium Substack subscribers of AI Coding Daily. I hope you appreciate and support my mission of doing these evals by subscribing to premium of AI Coding Daily. All the links in the video description below. Have you tried Sonnet 4.6? What do you think? Let's discuss all of that in the comments below. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.